What up, internet? Today we're gonna do something really interesting. We're gonna compare the input lags between the Xbox Series controller and the DualSense controller, wired and wireless. Let's get started. What I've done here is I use a high-speed camera that's capable of 960 frames per second. That's pretty close to 1,000 frames per second, so we can approximate in milliseconds instead of just frames. I'm using the same setup for both controllers. So I'm using the same computer, same monitor, same game. So all the environments are the same. The only difference is going to be the controller. I'm curious to see if there's any difference at all. My guess is there wouldn't be too much of a difference. I also am curious about the performance in terms of wire versus wireless. I expect the wired controllers to perform better, but by how much? I guess we'll find out. So here are the folders containing the videos I've already recorded. We have a wired test and a wireless test. Let's do wired first. I'm going to import this into DaVinci Resolve, which is a video editing program that I use. This is how the video would look like if you played it in real time. Keep in mind this is a 960 frames per second clip. So we're going to count the frames between the presses here until this button will appear on screen. Okay, this is where we press our button right there. I think that's where it bottomed out. Okay, this is gonna be an error of plus and minus a few frames, so a few milliseconds. And of course, the input could be registered earlier than that, but we're gonna use the bottoming out of the button as a reference. And we're not too concerned about exactly the input lag between the button presses to when it appears on screen. What I want to know is the difference between the two controllers and the difference between wired versus wireless. So this is our frame. We're going to put a mark there. So we're going to wait for the next input to appear here. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 80, 81, 82. So this frame right here. So we're going to put the marker there. Alright, y'all. I'm sick and tired of doing the calculation manually, so I created a template in spreadsheet here to make it easier in my life. After spending all day on this, I finally inputted all the data, and then I got some pretty interesting results. Let's go through them. For the wire portion of it, I've got an average of 80 milliseconds of input delay for the Xbox controller, and it ranges anywhere between 63 to 89. And for the DualSense, I've got an average input delay of 84 milliseconds, and it ranges anywhere between 79 to 93. But for the most part, it stays in the lower 80s. As for the wireless performance, on average, I'm getting around 87 milliseconds of input delay on the Xbox controller, and it ranges between, 72 at the lowest and 98 at the highest. For the DualSense controller, I got the same result, and it ranges from 82 milliseconds to 95 milliseconds. But essentially, the wireless results is pretty much the same. And this makes sense since they use the same Bluetooth protocol. So to make it a little easier for us to read here, if you're using the Xbox controller, wire is the way to go. You're gaining about 7 milliseconds, and for the DualSense, I don't think 3 to 4 milliseconds make that much of a difference. So if wireless is more convenient for you, I would say go for it. A test like this with a sample size of 20, I think that's pretty good, but again, it's not scientific or anything. And honestly, the difference is so minute. It's just a few milliseconds here and there between the Xbox and the PlayStation controller. If I would have to put money on it, I would say they're about the same. Just play with whatever controller that's more comfortable to you. Alright, if you find the video to be interesting or informative, give it a like and subscribe for more. Take care.